A brutal murder leads to an important moment in American legal history. Our moment in crime is the murder of Angie Zapata. A feeling of disappointment and upset likely hung in the air as Angie Zapata left the Artistic Beauty College in Thornton, Colorado. She'd gone to the college to enroll. A friend of Angie's went with her, and she also intended to enroll. But when Angie spoke to staff at the college, she was told 3 things. 1. She'd have to tie her hair back. 2. She would have to stop using makeup. 3. She would have to go by Justin. Angie was transgender. She was born Justin David Zapata on the 5th of August 1989 in Brighton, Colorado, to Maria Zapata. She had 4 sisters, Stephanie, Ashley, Monica and Nicole, and 1 brother, Gonzalo. Her sister Stephanie would later recall in an interview with Westword after Angie was murdered that Angie was never interested in the things that are typically associated with boys. Instead, Angie expressed herself in a feminine way. Angie, who has been described as funny and energetic, loved singing along to Celine Dion songs and making up raps to entertain her friends. She wanted to be Miss Latina. Hot Wheels cars she received as gifts went unattended. Angie much preferred watching her sisters apply makeup. By the time Angie was in middle school, Angie told her family that she identified as a female. Her family was supportive, although her mother, Maria, expressed worry for her safety. It was around this time that she began using the name Angie when going by her female gender identity in private. When in public, she continued to use Justin, or Jus for short. School wasn't an easy place to be for Angie. She was constantly bullied and had to transfer from Fort Lupton High School to Brighton Collegiate High School. But the bullying didn't stop, and Angie dropped out of school age 16 and began working. Angie had decided to save her earnings to pay for a sex change. A visit to a doctor in Denver left her feeling disheartened, as the procedure is expensive. By the time Angie turned 18, she was living in Greeley, Colorado, in a 1-bedroomed apartment by herself. Her mother lived just 2.5 blocks away. Her dream of qualifying as a makeup artist was now on hold. She mentioned to a friend that she would pursue a career as a beautician in the future. But Angie would never make it to her 19th birthday. Angie met Alan Andrade, 31, on Moco Space, a social network designed for cell phones. After talking for some time, the two met in person on the 15th of July 2008. Angie had borrowed her mother's car to pick up Andrade. All Maria knew about the man Angie was meeting was that he lived in Thornton. The pair hit it off right away, and Angie invited Andrade back to her apartment, where a sexual encounter took place. They would spend the next 3 days together. During the time spent together, Angie would not allow Andrade to touch her at all, and they slept in different rooms. On the 3rd day, Angie left Andrade, who was unemployed, in her apartment whilst she went to babysit her sister Monica's 3 children. Court testimony states that Angie then visited a friend after finishing babysitting. She mentioned to her friend that there was an older man staying with her and that she wanted him to help her pay some of her bills before she asked him to leave. When Angie returned to her apartment, she was confronted by Andrade, who was angry. While he was alone in the apartment, Andrade noticed a collection of photographs Angie had used to decorate her apartment. According to the police affidavit, the photos that Andrade saw made him, quote, question victim Zapata's sex, end quote. When he questioned Angie about her biological sex, Angie told him, "I am all woman." Andrade then asked Angie to prove she was a woman, and she refused. This led to Andrade grabbing Angie's crotch, and he discovered that Angie was biologically male. Angie was then attacked by Andrade, who began beating her with his fists. He knocked her to the floor. But Andrade wasn't finished. He then grabbed a fire extinguisher and hit Angie in the head with it twice. In the arrest affidavit, it's noted that Andrade said he thought he had, quote, killed it, end quote. Thinking that Angie was dead, Andrade covered her up with a blanket. He then began cleaning the scene of the crime. But Angie hadn't been killed. She began to regain consciousness and attempted to sit up. When Andrade noticed that Angie was moving and that she was making noises, he hit her again with the fire extinguisher. It was at this point that Andrade decided to flee. He grabbed his belongings, Angie's purse, credit cards, cell phone, and keys, and the fire extinguisher. He sped out of Greeley in Angie's 2003 Chrysler PT Cruiser. Angie's family became concerned after not hearing from her in a while. Monica decided to head over to Angie's apartment to check on her. It was Monica who found her little sister dead on the living room floor of her apartment. 2 weeks passed by. Andrade was still using the car he stole. Then the police received an early morning noise complaint from the area of Thornton that Andrade lived in. The police had been looking for Angie's car in the hopes that it would lead them directly to her killer. And that's exactly what the noise complaint did. The police found Andrade sitting in the dark forest green car, and he was arrested. It was the Zapata family who pushed for the murder to be prosecuted as a hate crime. Andrade's trial began on the 16th of April 2009. The jury was informed about conversations Andrade had while in jail. In one conversation with his girlfriend, he said that, quote, gay things must die, end quote. In a different conversation, he told his girlfriend that he was trying to put the murder behind him, adding that it's, quote, no use crying over spilled milk, end quote. It was noted in the media how during the trial, Angie was referred to by the prosecution as she, whereas the defence referred to Angie as he. The prosecution argued that Andrade knew Angie was biologically male prior to meeting her. It was suggested that Angie had told him in texts that she was physically male. Angie's cell phone, however, has never been found. The prosecution said that Andrade's knowledge of Angie's transgender identity ahead of time motivated the crime. Andrade had admitted to killing Angie, but his defence argued that he had acted in the heat of the moment when he learned that Angie was biologically male. Andrade didn't testify in his own defence, and his lawyer asked for a verdict of second-degree murder or manslaughter. The verdict came in just after 3 p.m. on the 23rd of April. After deliberating for 2 hours, the jury found Alan Andrade guilty of first-degree murder, hate crimes, aggravated motor vehicle theft, and identity theft. He'd been charged with identity theft after using the stolen credit cards to buy gas. The Zapata family wept as the verdict was read. Andrade didn't address the court when given the chance. The sentencing took place on the 8th of May. For Angie's murder and the 3 other convictions, Andrade was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Judge Marcelo Kopkow was fully aware that Andrade had 6 prior felony convictions, including convictions for theft, lying to a pawnbroker, and possession of contraband. Judge Kopkow called Andrade a habitual criminal and added another 60 years to his sentence. Annette Kundalius, Andrade's lawyer, argued that her client be allowed to serve the additional 60 years concurrently with his life sentence, rather than having them added on to the end of his sentence. She pointed out that none of his prior crimes had been violent, and that his family was loving and supportive. She told the court, "Mr. Andrade's life cannot be summed up just by this one act. There is so much more to Mr. Andrade. I think it's unfair that the media doesn't get an opportunity to know Mr. Andrade, and there's been a portrayal of Mr. Andrade as an evil, horrible monster. And he's not. There are a number of things I respect and admire about Mr. Andrade. While he's done something I don't think anybody agrees with, I think Mr. Andrade would agree this was not the best day of his life. It was not the best decision he ever made, but it happened." Maria Zapata also spoke to the court about the loss she had suffered. She said, "I lost somebody so precious. The only thing he can't take away is the love and the memories that I have of my baby. My beautiful, beautiful baby." Judge Kopkow ruled that Andrade would not be able to serve the additional 60 years alongside his life sentence. As of October 2015, Andrade is serving his sentence at the Sterling Correctional Facility in Sterling, Colorado. The conviction of Angie's murderer was an important moment in American legal history. It was the first time in the country that a state hate crime statute resulted in a conviction in a transgender person's murder. Mindy Barton, who was the legal director of the Gay, Lesbian, Bisexual and Transgender Community Center of Colorado at the time, attended the trial every day and called the verdict a landmark decision. At the time, 11 states and the District of Columbia recognized transgender people in their hate crime laws. This has now risen to 17 states. For the Zapata family, life goes on without Angie. They spend every day living with their loss. A memorial service held days after the murder was attended by 200 people. The 2011 novel The Butterfly and the Flame by Dana DeYoung was partly dedicated to Angie, and the band Ozzo Matley references Angie in a song featured on their 2010 album Fire Away. But Maria Zapata blames herself for Angie's death. She feels she is at fault for letting Angie borrow her car so she could pick up Andre, and wonders if things would be different if Angie lived with her, amongst other things. Her other children have asked her to move away from Greeley and live closer to them. But at the time of a 2009 interview, Maria said she won't move from Greeley as she doesn't want to leave Angie behind. She said, "There's times I would feel her presence here. I can even smell her. That's how much I miss her. When I go to work, I have to come back home, rush home to be with her. I don't want to leave her alone. I say, 'I'm here, baby. I'm here. I'm home.'"